By the winter of 1944, the war in the West was supposed to be almost over. The Allies had rolled from Normandy to the German border, and the Ardennes was a quiet place to rest tired divisions. Then, before dawn on December 16, out of fog and snow, 3 German armies smashed into that thin American line. Hitler's plan was codenamed Watch on the Rhine. Split the Allied armies, cross the Meuse River, and seize the vital port of Antwerp. To reach Antwerp, the Germans had to punch through the Ardennes and race for the Meuse, cutting the British and American armies clean in two. The 80-mile front in their path was held by a handful of divisions. Some were green, some had been pulled back to rest, and all were badly outnumbered. Behind the trees, the Germans had massed roughly 400,000 men, and 1,400 tanks and assault guns. At dawn on December 16, German artillery erupted along the whole front. In the fog, the attack achieved complete surprise. 3 armies lunged west. The 6th Panzer in the north, the 5th Panzer in the center, and the 7th Army guarding the southern flank. Near Malmedy, men of Kampfgruppe paper murdered around 84 American prisoners. A war crime that hardened every soldier who heard of it. Everything now depended on a small Belgian town called Bastogne, because 7 roads met there. Whoever held Bastogne controlled the movement of men, fuel, and supply across the entire region. So the Americans raced the clock. The 101st Airborne was trucked in by the 19th, alongside armor from the 10th Armored Division. They dug in around a ring of villages. Neuville, Foy, Bizery, Marvy, Champs. The perimeter that would have to hold. Inside the ring were paratroopers, tankers, and stragglers from a dozen units. Cold, low on ammunition, and cut off. By the 21st, German columns had closed in from every side. Bastogne was surrounded. At Neuville, in the north, small armored teams bought time in the route, fight before fall. On December 22, German officers walked into the lines under a white flag, carrying a demand for surrender. The acting commander was Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe. His written reply was a single word. Nuts. To the Germans, it meant, go to hell. Out of food, low on ammunition, freezing, and completely encircled, the Americans simply refused to quit. Then, on the 23rd, the skies finally cleared. Waves of C-47s roared over the town, dropping desperately needed supplies by parachute. And the fighter bombers came. P-47 Thunderbirds dove on the German columns raining Bastogne, strafing and blasting in the snow. On Christmas Day, the Germans had never been The last great German attack was spent. The perimeter held through Christmas. To the south, George Patton had already done the impossible, wheeling his Third Army 90 degrees north to drive for Bastogne. On the 26th, the 4th Army Division, spearheaded by Lieutenant Colonel Bastogne, had opened the door into the town. Bastogne was relieved. The siege was broken. Out west, the offensive had reached its high-water mark near Celles, barely 4 miles from the Meuse. There, out of fuel and out of momentum, the Germans stopped. It was the farthest they would ever get. Through January, the Allies squeezed the Bulge flat. By the 25th, the line was right back where it began. The cost was staggering. Around 19,000 Americans killed, and some 75,000 casualties in all. Germany lost close to 100,000 men, and the last of its reserves in the west. Hitler's last gamble had failed, and the road into Germany now lay open. They held the crossroads, and broke the back of the Wehrmacht.